So we got a little bit of information in regards to Rebirth as well as Crisis Core Reunion. This comes to us from the Chinese press release for both games. Now this information was translated via the very wonderful AUDREY on Twitter. If you are a Final Fantasy fan on Twitter and you are not following AUDREY, you absolutely need to change that. She does such a fantastic job covering all of this information and translating it in a very timely fashion, and it's also very accurate. She does a really great job at this, so I'll leave a link in the description below to her Twitter account so you can follow her, so that way when all the latest news comes out, she translates it and you get it immediately. So Katase goes on to say that remake has many meanings, not just a remake of the original game, as well as remake and rebirth, meaning to restore anew. So as we played through remake, we know that Sephiroth is up to something. We don't know what his end game is, but it definitely seems like all of these titles, remake and rebirth, are kind of in reference to Sephiroth and whatever his endgame may be. And the last bit of information is that Rebirth will have a similar battle system to Final Fantasy VII Remake, which is really great news to hear. I really love the battle system from Remake. I think that for a turn-based RPG, the Remake battle system was the perfect evolution for that franchise and for that genre in particular, because you're getting the best of both worlds. You're getting that heavy action emphasis, but when you need to slow things down and use a command menu, that option is there as well. And it's definitely a battle system that Square spent a lot of time finally tuning and crafting and developing. So to have that in one game and then just not go back to it in the sequel, that would be kind of weird. So I'm happy that the remake battle system will be returning in Rebirth, probably with a few tweaks here and there. Now the news regarding Crisis Core Reunion. Katase goes on to say that the English voice cast is completely recast from the original. So all of the people we heard from Remake that are going to be in Crisis Core, their characters, they will be the ones voicing them. He also goes on to say that the new cast will give you a different impression for those who have played the original game, which is kind of what Remake did. Casting an entirely new set of actors for those characters really was the best move they could have made. I really enjoyed the original actors, but these newer actors really just bring a different type of depth and vibe to the roles and to the writing, and they all did such a fantastic job. So to hear some of those remake actors participate not only in Rebirth but Crisis Core Reunion should be really interesting. So I'm really curious to hear their take on things and to see if they can do what they did with Remake, and that's add more depth to the characters. He goes on to also say that the battle system has been improved upon, so those who played Final Fantasy VII Remake can have a seamless experience. Which information came out a few weeks ago saying that Crisis Core would have a command menu style for its battle system, which all of this information coming out now saying that it will have a seamless feel along with Remake. Crisis Core will most likely use that command menu battle system from Remake, so that's really exciting to hear. All of the stuff we've been reading and seeing in the trailers, Zack seems so much more mobile and faster. We have yet to actually see that command menu in action, but the more they talk about it, the more I'm starting to think it's going to be maybe not identical to the battle system in menu and Remake, but very similar. He also says that the game is fully voiced and the graphics are all updated to HD, which we could see in the trailers. We've also heard this information before as well. Summons and magic will have shortcuts you can use. Combos will be easier to create, and the DMW will happen automatically without stopping gameplay or slowing things down. So that's a big pet peeve that a lot of people had with the original Crisis Core. When the DMW would activate, you would have to stop, wait for the slots to activate, see what your prize was, and then that prize would then play out in a form of a summon or a special ability. And then when the summons would attack, you'd have to sit and watch that animation as well. So there's a lot of quality of life improvements that are being made for Crisis Core Reunion, so we don't have to sit through a lot of this stuff anymore. So Katase says they decided to do Crisis Core Reunion during Remake, and one of the reasons why is because they wanted to showcase Zack's story so those who played Remake would be able to know more about him. And since Crisis Core was only on PSP, they wanted a much larger audience to experience this story and the character. There are a lot of people who played OG Final Fantasy and don't remember Zack. There actually wasn't too much in the way of Zack in the original unless you actually went out of your way to learn more about him. And since he's going to be a big character in Rebirth, it makes a lot of sense for people to go back and experience what he experiences in Crisis Core, so that way you can really get to know Zack and feel even more for him in Rebirth. So this is where things get a little bit wacky because it's kind of flip-flopping back and forth from things they've said previously. But they go on to say that the story will be basically the same as the original Crisis Core. However, this is the part where things get loopy. I'm getting mixed signals here, ladies and gentlemen. But there is another full quote saying, "The story of Crisis Core FF7 Reunion will basically not change from the original game. However, even if we say that, there might be some who played Remake or watched the Rebirth trailer and felt that something was off. As such, you can consider Crisis Core FF7 Reunion as a part of the FF7 Remake project. With that in mind, we hope you can enjoy Zack's story along with the strange feeling that was brought forth from 7 Remake." So I'm kind of getting mixed vibes here. First, they said that the story itself will be a faithful retelling of the original Crisis Core, which makes sense. To know more about Zack, you have to learn what he goes through and what inevitably happens to him. So to change that wouldn't make sense, I suppose. My original feeling was that something was going to change in Reunion. Maybe not the full story, but I felt like maybe the ending would change here or there. But they've come out multiple times saying that the story itself would be a faithful retelling, but then they say stuff like this about, oh well, maybe there might be, you know, some vibes from Remake going on in Crisis Core, which just kind of throws me off. So I really don't know what to believe. There's a lot of little nuggets here and there that they drop that make me question, well, is this going to be a faithful retelling, or will there be some stuff that is indeed different? So what it is exactly they mean, I really don't know. For all we know, there could be a major twist coming in Crisis Core that they do not want to reveal, but a lot of this talk is kind of confusing me a little bit. But what I do know is that I'm even more intrigued to play Crisis Core Reunion. The more information that comes out, the more excited I get to actually get my hands on this and re-experience this story in an updated fashion that's going to be probably much easier to play and a much easier pill to swallow this time around. He also goes on to say that one of the reasons why they aren't remastering Dirge of Cerberus is because it comes after Advent Children, whereas Crisis Core was a catalyst for Final Fantasy VII, so it made way more sense to remake that game, or remaster it rather, to be a part of this remake project. So that's pretty much the information. Again, thank you to Audrey for translating all of this in such a timely fashion. Go ahead and leave your thoughts in the comments below. What do you guys think about the story of Crisis Core Reunion? Do you think it will be a faithful retelling, or are things going to change? Will there be some stuff that's different, and why are they kind of going a little bit back and forth with the information that they're providing in regards to the story? But I will see you guys in the next video. Please remember to always be excellent to one another.